Hey guys, just here to make another video, most of my videos now are about healing from covert narcissistic abuse. Then you might have something called CPTSD, which is it's kind of like PTSD, but where PTSD has a specific thing in the environment, something your five senses can pick up on. The brain responds to that traumatic stimuli differently than sometimes with CPTSD. You kind of have to have felt trapped and traumatized at the same time. So certain emotions can trigger you, and certain social cues and social nuances of communication can actually trigger you, whether it comes from yourself or from another person. So I just want to talk about different methods, things I'm experiencing with self-parenting, which is the important part of getting over this. Sorry, I'm at my mechanic's job. None of the background matches any of what I'm talking about, but I'm using my time wisely to help people. So excuse the aesthetics, just focus on me. I'm pretty looking. But a lot of what I'm experiencing, I'm learning to distinguish between my adult emotions, because a lot of the problems that I'm facing with my healing is things that happen in the subconscious. My conscious mind is adapted to be an adult male, 31 years old, and it thinks like a man in a lot of ways, or like an adult. But then there's the inner child. From my healing, I'm learning to distinguish between these two things more. So sometimes the inner child is, I don't know if it's connected to my intuition, and it tells me things that are useful to the adult. So the adult, the man in me, is trying to listen to the child within for certain types of guidance that actually have helped me in my life. But sometimes the adult knows better, so it's a weird relationship. Sometimes my adult emotions scare the crap out of the child, and sometimes the child emotions scare the crap out of the adult. And I think the important part is to try to determine and be on a path of resolution between these two conflicting parts. To put it more simply, and just to use a different example of psychology, is most people have two sides of them, like a part of them that wants to left and right brain. Part of you wants to be creative, do something fun, do something that's not necessarily productive. But then another part of you wants to contribute to the community, wants to feel responsible and in control of their lives. So, I think most people who don't have CPTSD are still balancing those parts. But if you have CPTSD, covert narcissistic abusive family from childhood trauma, it's a whole other ball game trying to balance what an adult wants and what needs to get out of life. But then reparenting, you need to learn to give the child what your crappy ass parents never gave you. So that's just something I've been experiencing, and I kind of just push through it. I'm sure there's a better way to do it that I'll learn with time, but right now it's just I need to do this as an adult, but I need to, there's something that helps with remaining sensitive as a man. You pay attention to things more, you can predict things more, and you can read people better. And that helps in business. It helps anywhere. That was the first part of what I wanted to share in this video. The other part is different techniques because if you think about it, the main principle I'm coming from is validating the child within, the part of you that never got to feel special when you were growing up. That's focusing on that's going to be your best shot. But there are certain things that I've done. I've figured out how to do to make the inner child feel safe, because essentially you never felt safe. And even if you're an adult like me, I'm in good shape, I make plenty of money, besides all that, inside where my feelings are, a part of me that no one ever soothed that child. That child just went through its whole life just trauma. And until I was able to educate myself, now I could communicate to certain adults about this situation, and they can kind of understand and they can help me feel better, but really it's my responsibility. So certain things I've been doing, one thing I did, it's just the most adorable thing you'll ever hear. Like, I imagined me as a child, like me as an adult in this strong adult body, actually cuddling myself when I was 6 years old. I mean, this sounds gooey and cheesy as hell, but it's actually, you know, if you can be in a space at home where it's quiet, you've got some peaceful music going on, maybe some incense, and you imagine that kid, you know, saving that kid, finding justice in your life for that kid that never got justice. It's a very soothing, and it transformed me a little bit because it made me think about myself differently and how I perceive myself as a human being, because I've never been a father, and I've never had that chance to, I think, have that amount of closeness to a child before, where you can understand what this person went through, because it is you, it is your life, and you can't relate to anyone better than you can relate to yourself. And that's something I did, you know. I just thought, you know, like, I'm trying to validate the child. Well, and as an adult, because of my healing, I'm kind of alone in a lot of ways from society. I socialize normally with adults with boundaries, but in the emotional world, I do feel alone quite often. And just knowing that there's a part of me that I'm saving, that I'm vindicating, that, you know, a lot of my grieving and healing has come from recognizing, feeling bad for that kid that I was, because no one really did. You know, lots of terrible things happened to me when I was younger, and, you know, it really changed me just thinking about cuddling myself as a kid, and not just cuddling, like saying, I know what you're going through, I know this is bullshit, I know what these people, my parents, are doing are wrong, and I'm already out there fighting, like I'm an industrial mechanic, you know, like I go to the gym, I take care of my life, you know, I fight the fight of being an adult, but doing it, the reason why I'm doing it is what I think what motivates me, and kind of also softens my heart, even though I'm dealing with the real world. And I think this can help people out there who are struggling with the same thing. You know, learning to make that child feel safe within. You'd be surprised at how much that'll reduce a lot of your symptoms. Because for a long time in my adult life, this kid was inside just crying, and I couldn't handle my adult situations like an adult. I would try to. My conscious mind is so powerful. My powers of concentration are very strong. But until I got into those emotional roots, like the kid kept saying like, oh, you know, you're an adult, you can take all this. And I was like, yeah, but I mean, I'm 25 and I haven't really done anything career-wise or relationship-wise or, you know, like in a long time. I am making it, but I could be doing a lot better. And I think this is actually how I arrived at this point in my life, where I actually did make it better as an adult, where I'm functioning pretty damn well, and I'm building my life pretty damn well. And it's like I'm the parent. I'm the loving, soothing, tough but compassionate, fully compassionate, recognizing all of my needs parent that my parents should have been. You know, my parents were alcoholics. They were horribly abusive people. So yeah, that's one thing you can do that'll, if you are kind of alone, if you aren't living with a lover, or you don't have a close friend you're living with, try and give that inner child a voice. And this is, like, I'm not trying to be too spiritual or hippy-dippy, like, I'm talking about psychology, because I've heard about inner child a lot, but until I really understood what child psychology was and what good parenting is, which there's not much out there that tells you what good parenting is in the Western world. But you can find that information if you really look for it. I think a lot of parenting has been misinterpreted, and I know I'm not much of one to talk because I'm not a parent, but I know so much about human biology and psychology and childhood development that I stand on my opinion of how a child should be raised. Especially, but my parents didn't really beat me as a child. They were emotionally violent, particularly. They did use some physical abuse, but that was like hitting with a belt. And the whole point was to hide their evil from society, but still shoving their evil into me, you know. So no one knew that they were bad parents. That was all part of the mystery. But yeah, doing things like that, sometimes I'll watch kids shows on TV. You know, I'm a full-grown adult. I like scary movies. You know, I like sexy shows. I like, you know, adult things. But sometimes it's coloring, or, you know. And I'm a musician, and I play many genres, and lots of songs that I play, the kid in me will like. And so before it was almost like a fight against this child. It's like, I'm trying to grow up. I'm trying to mature, but this is the way to mature. The way to mature is to connect to that child, because you're trying to skip a whole stage of emotional development and think you can just arrive. You can skip, you know, ages 0 through 18, and then magically you're an adult. It doesn't fucking work that way. Especially if you have horrible childhood trauma. You have to make up for what is lost in the best way that you can, and move forward in your life in the best way that you can. And I'm hoping that these insights and advice and techniques can help people to do the best they can. Thank you for watching.